You're ready to be premature all over again.
Wow, that's impressive.
Quick
bro.
reset.
Yeah.
Quick reset.
Last night was Ramos jizz.
Freudian slip. Who knew the job was pro bono?
I was so high that I shit myself at some point.
Okay, get still here. Somebody, everybody mute. Goddamn you.
My SEAL Team 6 with the SEAL Team 12.
There's nothing wrong with punching above your weight.
I thought you'd get better.
Well,
I don't know what's worse. You're a ginger or you've been vaccinated.
You sit around and drink and solve the world's problems, right?
Hey, let's go ahead and unwrap this present and let the debate begin.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. New week, new topic. The Los Quattro Jinetes are once again in the studio. We're here to talk about whatever we want to talk about. It is post-Independence Day, July 4th weekend. Obviously, with everything going on in the United States, maybe it's tough for you to kind of get into the patriotic mood. I know it is for me. But obviously, we'll get into that in a little bit. But first and foremost, Grinch, how are you doing?
Proud to be American. Well, at least I know my civil liberties are being eroded away.
Slowly but surely.
And I won't forget the shitty rulings by the Supreme Court. And I'll stand up and say, fuck Trump. Oh, sorry.
Have you considered giving up your day job?
I'm telling you.
Many
You
times.
have? Good. Don't take up singing, but feel free to give up your day
I'm
job.
in a rap battle with Eminem. I think he can.
That's true.
He can hold his own.
flow.
He can hold his own. Gentlemen, how's everybody doing?
Good.
Not Sans Grinch. Sans Grinch. He already did his.
I'm
Proud to
doing
be an
well.
American.
Yeah.
Proud to be an American.
Yeah.
All right.
American.
Well,
I expected
then
songs.
let's jump into our very Americanized drinks and see what everybody's drinking today. All right, Mac, what about you? What do you have?
So I, in standard American fashion, I went with a mixer, so I could be lazy,
Nice.
and just made a Mai Tai. So I had the mixer, the Mai Tai mixer, and just poured a little bit of rum into it, and paired it with some plantain chips.
Oh, nice.
So
Very
it's,
American. I
very
like it.
American, right?
Are you chasing it with a Budweiser too?
I think
Absolutely.
Max still hanging on to the Los Quattro
Los
Jinetes.
Jinetes. That's right. That's right.
My career as a coyote.
Mai
My
Tai.
retirement plan.
Mai Tai. Nothing wrong with that. Haas, what about you, brother? What are you drinking today?
It's hot.
It is hot.
It
that's
is
in
hot.
here.
It's
That's
hot.
okay. Yeah.
So
In
I
here.
went, yeah.
No, sorry.
Take off all your clothes.
Oh,
Well, he already did.
Oh, there you go. With your
He is
assless chaps.
alone in the flat.
That's right. Assless chaps.
yeah. I mean, that's what I should have done, right? I should have just been like, here. All right.
Now you look like Bert Kreischer.
There
Doc,
we go.
Doc
Don't worry.
Machine.
That's right. That's right. No, I'm good. I just need a White Claw, and
And you're
I don't
set.
know what it. Yeah, and was it the plunge bath that he likes to take every day?
All right. So what are you drinking? I'm sorry. It's hot.
A bourbon
You're
stone
shirtless.
sour. Yeah.
You've done
I went
this.
with
You've done this before.
I love this drink when it's hot out.
I thought you liked gin when it was hot out.
I do. I've already
I
had.
thought it would have been a
I
gin
had
tonic.
3 while I was watching the F1 race.
So you decided bourbon stone sour was the way to go.
That's right. I did.
Look, you've done it multiple times on the show. It's a win
Yep.
for you.
It is a
clearly.
win. It's a
All
win.
right.
I'm a fan.
All right, Grinchinator, your Americanized badass self.
Yeah.
What red, white, and blue concoction are you drinking?
I am drinking the Hemingway daiquiri, also known as the El Doble, I believe, because he would frequently order doubles. But the story goes, novelist stopped into Havana's El Floridita bar, not far from the hotel where he lived for much of the 30s. Then he ordered a drink, and I'll skip ahead. The bartender ended up coming up with this drink for him, and he would serve it in a glass with a paper towel and like a rubber band around it, so he wouldn't, like the condensation, it wouldn't slip out of his hand. And he was known to put down a number of them. But it's white rum, maraschino liqueur, lime juice, grapefruit juice, and you garnish with a lime wheel. I didn't garnish with a lime wheel, but yeah.
Slap ass. Couldn't even get a lime wheel. All right. Well, all I'm seeing is paper towel.
Mm.
You could be drinking water for all the fuck we know, but that's
True.
okay.
That's
That
true.
is smart play.
Mhm.
And this is called the what? The Doble?
It's called the Hemingway Daiquiri or the
Oh.
El Doble.
El Doble. Okay. Gotcha. My dad would appreciate that. He's a big Hemingway fan. So there you go.
It's a good drink.
The Hemingway Daiquiri. All right. I have to look that one up. Give it a shot. All right. So since you're coming from south of the border in Cuba, I too went with something along those lines. It's been done before by me, and I'm pretty sure other people, but I went with the Cuba Libre. So I went with the Don Papa rum, extra Don Papa rum for me today. A little splash of fresh lime juice, and then a Coca-Cola, and then garnish it with a lime wedge. And that's what I am having, a little Cuba Libre. So before we jump into our topic, as always, gentlemen, cheers. Los Quattro Jinetes. Glad everybody's here. Happy to see you.
Cheers.
Take a big old pull of that, and proud to be an American.
I'm sorry. I'm just drinking a Bud Light, and I'm slamming as many down my throat as I possibly can.
Is that from a red Solo cup?
Yes.
He's got a 357 on his hip, and he's drinking Budweiser.
In a Coors. Chase it with the Coors.
Cold as the mountains.
I picture you in a sleeveless shirt that says
That's it.
America, back-to-back world champs.
That's right.
All right, let's jump into our topic. Look, we are coming off July 4th weekend. This was one of those things with obviously the news cycle of late kind of brings pause to the table when you think about where the state of America is right now. So I thought this might be something we should talk about in terms of kind of where we are in America, in terms of the greatest country in the world, some of the steps that have been taken. And we won't go into the things that the Supreme Court's done, that my own state here in Florida is continuing to do, to just run roughshod over people. But I thought, again, three of us living here in the States, one of us outside the country, kind of where we are in terms of how we feel in terms of patriotism toward our country, with kind of the state of where things are at. And it can go in any direction, kind of free flowing stream of consciousness. There's nothing hard and fast that says we have to stick to any one topic around this. But I was just curious where everybody's at right now as we're coming off the July 4th weekend, and just get everybody's opinion. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Who would like to start? Mac, I'm sorry. Let me start with you. I don't want to get too far down the road. Pre-starting the podcast, you made a comment about America, and I'd like to know for our listeners what that comment was.
Yeah, I've had this discussion with Little Mac before. Actually, most recently, off of the heels of the Roe versus Wade reversal, and again, we've talked about that. We won't go into that in detail, but the comment was, well, I'm going to move to England. Well, that's fine. If you want to move to England, go for it. This is not the reason to do it, right? Stay here, stand up, and, get involved. Be the change you want to see in this country. Because, at the end of the day, everybody says, it used to be, America's the greatest country in the world. And I think I still agree with that to some extent. I think America is definitely one of the greatest countries in the world still. I don't know that we can say it's the greatest country.
You're walking that one back a little bit, because that's not what you said.
What did I say?
You said America's the greatest country in the world. That's what you said. Now
I said it's one of the greatest countries in the world.
No, you actually, it was actually recorded. We can go back and listen to it. You said America.
I know what I said because I said what I said.
Why are you telling me what I said? I know what I said.
I know what I said. I'm the one that said it.
Sorry, continue.
You don't fucking like it, go live in North Korea. Go live in Pakistan.
You mean if I don't like what you said, go live in North Korea?
That too.
Or if I don't agree with the statement, America is the greatest country.
Yes.
Look, you said that, and for some reason, and I don't know why, it rubbed me the wrong way, and mainly because why is that
rub you the wrong way?
Occasionally. Why is that our go-to? America is the greatest country in the world. If you don't like it, go live in North Korea. Why is it the extreme? Because Haas is living outside the country, and I guarantee you, he is quite happy where he's living. There are 206 countries in this world.
Anything else?
I know, but why did we then go, if you don't like it, go live in North Korea? It's like, why that? Why not, hey, go live in Austria? Hey, go live in France. Hey, go live in a more progressive country that doesn't have their head so far up their fucking ass, right? But we go live in North Korea. Why do we do that? Oh, is this so we can mute ourselves?
Fine. Go. I'm being censored. See, now you know what it's like to live in an
America.
oppressive country.
You get censored in this country.
So,
No, look.
No, that's
No,
a great point, right? Yeah, I get what you're saying. That is the go-to for Americans to say, "Well, you don't like it, fucking leave." Right. But there's something to that statement, and I guess the point being that, you know, yes, we have problems, you know, but are they first world problems? You know.
Well,
And I'm not trying to belittle what they are.
No,
You mean
I
as
mean,
4 white guys you're talking about, but there are people in this country.
sort to your point. I mean,
Yeah.
right. There's an arrogance to it that means we're beyond reproach. And it ties into this same theme of American exceptionalism and, you know, the shining beacon or the white whatever on the hill, you know, the white whatever Reagan said. I think the problem that, you know, maybe as the world keeps turning is, I mean, proud of the country, but the problem was we didn't have much in the way of humility to go along with it, which would have served us well, because if you're good, you don't have to rub it in people's faces. You're just good, and you don't have to constantly tell. It's the old, like, if you're good, then why do you have to keep telling people how good we are, right? And I agree with you, Thor. I mean, to say if you have one critique of the country, we can get the fuck out. Well, I guarantee you all those people have had critiques based on who is in office and otherwise. Being critical of your government isn't a bad thing. In fact, I think it's healthy to hold our government to account. The theme that kind of brought us here today was proud of the country. We got our, you know, it's our July 4th celebration, celebrating Independence Day, but it's coming on the heels of numerous Supreme Court rulings that just show a backslide into the freaking dark ages. And that's the shit that sucks. That's where I think we are, like what we're here to talk about today.
Right. And I think there's a difference, because the two words that I tend to associate with this particular topic is love and pride. Love is an intense feeling or deep affection. And I love my country. But then when you talk about being proud or pride, that's a feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction of a result of achievements, qualities, possessions, et cetera, et cetera. So that definition is a little more extensive than love. I don't think, especially as of late, the achievements, the standards that we've set, the rulings that have been made by the Supreme Court and how those affect a myriad of populations across the country. Like, I can love my country doesn't mean I got to be proud of it. It's like I can love a family member, but I don't got to like them all the time.
Those two things aren't mutually inclusive.
Right.
No.
And I think there's a difference. July 4th weekend is like a pride in your country. And that's what I struggle with coming off this weekend is right now I'm not proud. Does that mean I want to live in another country? Not necessarily. I'm not saying I want to go to North Korea. I'm saying I can love my country. Doesn't make me necessarily proud of where it's currently at.
Yeah,
and that's okay. And that's okay.
Right.
And then what I would say is, if you are not proud of it, be the change you want to see, right?
Well,
You know,
and again,
get involved and
Right.
make a difference, right? You know, to just and I'm not saying you specifically, right? But people in general are fast to critique and, you know, put blame, but then, you know, you turn the quarter and say, okay, well, what do you want to see to? Oh wait, you want me to get involved and do? I can't do that. I'm too busy. I got this going on, or I'm doing that.
Or they don't like something, but they don't have an answer.
Right.
Like they don't have a response.
Well,
they don't have a
I'm
resolution.
a little more okay with that, because you may not always have the answer immediately, right?
Well, hold on.
But,
You're wrong. You're wrong because you said it. The answer is to get involved on at minimum on a grassroots level to effectuate change.
Well, I mean, again, that's what we do here. That's why I tell my kids when they complain about stuff, it's like, do something about it. Like, we're not reaching 250,000 listeners a month, and I accept that. But we do use our voice for good here, because we at least start a conversation that needs to be had. Do you have to take our approach in terms of our beliefs or our approach to something? No, but the conversation should be started. And if you don't like something, without that conversation, change never occurs. Standing on the sidelines won't do it.
Well, and you know, right now, I mean, the United States is a bit of a cautionary tale of when you start taking certain things for granted, you get reminded of how quickly it can erode. And I mean, we saw that with the last presidency. It strained every system we had and brought out the worst in us, and we're still exercising those demons. And so we're not in a great place. If you were an outside observer, and we've talked about whether it's the shootings, whether it's, you know, these rulings from the Supreme Court, our own fucking Capitol getting ransacked, like if all you knew were those things right now, you'd be like, the United States is a shit show. And
right,
and
in a vacuum. You got that very narrow,
And it kind of begs the question of the, you know, okay, the greatest nation in the world, which we have not defined, but I mean, I'm still proud of the nation, having served in the military for 20, you know, a little over 20 years. Like I feel very patriotic, and I feel like I knew what I represented and what I was a part of, and that made me proud. It begs the question, though, if you say, okay, well, where's better? I mean, I will say to that question, I would offer Canada. I would. They got their healthcare in order. They got their economy in a good place. You know, they generally seem happy and pleasant.
Right. And
they're also not
it's
the
pretty
world's
damn hard
police
to get
either.
into Canada.
Yeah.
Right. And we're not expecting every day, no matter where you live, every day is not love, light, beauty, rainbows, and unicorns. We get that. We accept that. But the trajectory that we've been on for going on 6 years, 7 years now. And again, as you said, since that monumental shift occurred in 2016, Trump got in office, and kind of where we've been headed. It's like, Haas, you say, like, we didn't get fat overnight. We're not going to get skinny in a day, right? Him being in office for those 4 years and the irrevocable damage that did to a number of things.
It's still doing.
It's still doing. I think people thought, well, Joe's going to be in office and the ship should be righted tomorrow. No. And so now what happens is, well, we're in a worse situation because Joe's fucking up. And I'm not saying Joe's doing everything right by any stretch of the imagination.
Because he's not.
But he's also dealing with the monumental uphill task of dealing with everything that came from his predecessor.
Whoever was going to come after Trump was going to have the same shit show on their hands.
Right.
Yeah, you're coming out of COVID. You got supply chain shortages. You got the incursion into Ukraine. I mean, you got rocketing inflation, you know, oil and gas prices going up. Like it's a lot for an administration to deal with, because you know, not all those are just, I've just made a decision and it's fixed.
Right.
They're worldwide level issues that require.
I mean, the same shit's happening everywhere on the planet.
Right.
And you bring up a great point there, right? We're not in a vacuum, right? Like we used to be. It used to be that, you know, everything was made in the U.S. That's where you got most of your stuff. It's a global economy now, and we have to look, you know, outside of just our own house when we make these decisions and you know, deal with the things we're dealing with, because they have worldwide effects. And the same goes for other countries when they make decisions, right? It's going to have effects on us. You know, you can't think microscopic anymore.
Not and be successful.
Right.
Right. Again, coming off the weekend and not losing sight of that aspect of the topic. So I was curious, for the four of us going around the room, with the way things are and your approach to the world, your own household, your situation, you know, where is everybody at in terms of their patriotism? Grinch, I know you said, like, I'm still patriotic towards my country, or at least you were while you were in the military. You did 20 years, whatever. But coming off this weekend, I'd like to know, just very curious, where is everybody at in terms of your approach to America, your pride, your patriotism, however you want to define it. And I'm even more curious, Haas, obviously for you, because you live outside the country. So.
Yeah, it seems a little muted this year. And it's one of those, I almost feel silly, like staring at fireworks, pretending like everything's okay.
Right.
When it doesn't feel that way.
Does the shame still exist?
Say that again.
Does the shame, you've mentioned on previous episodes, like there's a shame to it. Right.
Yeah. I mean, on the world stage, still very much embarrassed. And I want to say, those that have traveled and have had the experience of coming here, you know, maybe have some grounding of, we're all guilty, right? We've talked about this. I don't remember which specific podcast, but you tend to think of groups as monolithic. You just assume they're all the same. And we know from living in the States, every region is different. Cities are different. States have their own culture, and there's an ebb and flow to it, and it's always in motion. And it's just like Europe is not all one country. I mean, there are very distinct cultures as you go around, whether it's Spain, Portugal, Italy, you know, whether you get over into the Eastern Bloc. And so, you know, for anybody that's outside looking in, I'd say there are many people, good people here in this country that feel frustrated. And it's especially when it's something that requires change, which kind of requires the entire populace to get energized. And I'm wondering if the Supreme Court has done that. I'm kind of hoping they have. They've sent the wake-up call of, you need to stop being so dead set on, I need this to happen or I'm not voting for that person. It's like you need to, the whole system is based on compromise and progressive change, not necessarily the big P, you know, like the Progressive Party, but you go for what gets you closer to what you believe the right answer is. And so for me, whether that, I don't even care which party that happens to be for you. I just know which party I'm not voting for in block right now because of what they're bringing to the table. And I want to see other change agents coming that are energized, fired up, and want to start leading us in the right direction again.
Do those kind of politicians even exist right now?
Well, ironically, I would say one of the best ones out there is AOC. She's freaking wicked smart. She speaks from the heart. She's grounded, and she's the kind of person in touch with reality, as opposed to these professional politicians that have lived in this bubble for so long that next to no change is the right answer. Well, that's what got us sitting on our fucking hands for 50 plus years while Roe v. Wade just hung out there, and they didn't codify it. And now they act shocked that it happened. Like,
right.
I mean, yeah, it was a shock to the system, but we shouldn't be overly surprised based on who went in.
And we know that him, you know, during Trump's administration, replacing 3 justices was going to have we talked about this when we first started this podcast, was going to have a massive effect. And now we're starting to see 2 years on, we're starting to see, and I say 2 years from us starting this podcast, we're starting to see the effects of that from a Supreme Court standpoint.
It's important to note not just the 3 Supreme Court justices, but I mean, I'm sure it was 100 federal court district court judges.
Right.
I don't remember the last total number, but it was. I'm fairly confident it's more than any other president prior.
Well, and again, that's a soundbite that you've been throwing out for nearly 2 years on this show, was the impact that those appointments were going to make. And again, like I said, here we are, and we are now feeling those effects. We're not surprised because we knew it was coming at some point.
And I will say this, one other thing that's ongoing that we haven't referenced specifically, but we've got the January 6th hearing or committee that's still ongoing. And that has given me, some hope, because you see how that committee is approaching this and the incredible work they're doing. And you hear testimony from some amazing Americans who held the line when it came time to ensure that outright fraud occurred or a stolen election, because it could have. And we were close. I mean, I think we were a lot closer than we realized to how bad it could have been. And whether it's Raffensperger, or the gentleman from Arizona who's their, was he the Speaker of the House, I think maybe, like at the end of the day, when push came to shove and they didn't put Trump ahead of country. And that's important. It's just, that's the way it needs to always be, because that's how the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, right? Is when we're all contributing energy to something bigger than ourselves, which kind of gets into that pride and feeling a certain way about your country.
And I'm not saying the country's going to necessarily move in the direction I wanted to, or necessarily the way you guys wanted to, but it should be moving in the direction that the majority wants it to.
Well, and I was talking with some people earlier today, and I said part of the problem I feel like is it used to be when two people from different sides of the aisle would be having a debate or a conversation about something. At the end of it, you would shake hands, hug it out, and be like, at least we're both Americans, and we just want what's best for America, right? The problem is we disagree on how to get there.
Now they look
Right.
across the aisle like they're
Now-
staring at aliens.
Well, it's so freaking divisive, and there's so much vitriol and animosity and acrimony that it's just it's palpable. You can taste it, and it's. I just it saddens me and embarrasses me, and just I just we got to do better. Come on, well, we're better than this.
Yeah, I want to ask a question based off something you just said, Hoss, and I don't know the answer to this, and that's why I'm going to ask it amongst the group here. How did we get to this point? You're right. I mean, it's so decisive, and nobody can agree on anything. When you start looking at the two sides of the aisle, how did we? I mean, does anybody have any idea how we got to this point?
Well, for me, I think America, the general public, was asleep at the wheel for 50 years. We let this happen,
and I think. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was going to say we can. I think we can reasonably place some amount of blame on baby boomers and the generation and some of the decisions they've made and choices. But the rest of us that were actively able to vote and effectuate change, we were asleep at the wheel. As long as nothing was broken in my house and not messing with me, I'm okay.
Well, right. And I would say at the core of this, it comes, in my opinion, it comes down to a segment of people who don't want what's best for their fellow human being.
They want what's best for them.
And and then you add in, a couple of dashes of racism, or they don't like the world that they're seeing, the change that is clearly happening. And so they start taking steps, which we, however long ago, wouldn't have thought people would be willing to do, because you think we've talked about this, like, oh, in our heart of hearts, people are actually, are really good. No, they're not. No, they're not. They're just not. And if you get past that hurdle and start critically assessing people and the types of character, the character of the people you're electing, that starts shaping, I think, where we go. Because I think, Mac, to your question, what we saw is systematically more radicalized candidates getting into office, which started, if the House and the Senate is a representation of the nation writ large, then it's a reflection of us. And we can see that in those voting members and how divisive they are, because they reflect us. And that's kind of where we are, is we've now put people in the forefront who aren't faithful servants to their fellow man and woman, or, child, etc. They're in there to shape culture now. And that's not what we've ever asked them to do. That's not what they're there to do, but that's what they're freaking doing.
Right.
No, but you said it too, right? They're a representation of the people that put them there, right?
Supposed to be.
Well, it's supposed to be, right? And we go back to this. When Trump got elected, you look at it and say, okay, so 51% or whatever it was, whatever the majority was, agreed with what he was saying. That's kind of scary.
Well, we talked about this before, though. We do need to be careful. He won the Electoral College, not the popular vote. And there is a difference there.
Right. Because I don't think he got 50% of the vote. He didn't.
No. And, despite his claims of the biggest landslide victory in history, it was not.
Right.
But to me, it's like any system. When you fuck with the principles, the foundation that it's built upon, that's when you invite problems. And if you start gerrymandering, you're artificially affecting
change,
who's getting into office,
right?
Because it's no longer reflective of the population. They're marginalizing the minority groups and others that they don't want to have a representational voice at Congress.
Right. And then when it becomes a trickle down effect, and once that representation stops being the will of the people and becomes a more self-serving representation, which is where a lot of politicians are right now, that trickle down effect begins to be felt across a lot of different places, because those self-serving individuals are now appointing federal judges, appointing Supreme Court judges, and so on and so forth. And, I know we said we didn't really want to focus on the Supreme Court, but yes, Roe v. Wade was an issue, right? Now there have been rulings that are limiting executive action on both climate change and abortion. So the Supreme Court is ruling in a way to control the White
Well,
House
and religion and guns.
and religion, right?
Mhm.
And part of the judiciary, legislative, and executive branch was that there was a checks and balances, right? Now the Supreme Court is passing things to control the executive branch.
Mhm.
That's a no-no,
Mhm.
right? But that's what they're doing. And then Haas, as you said, I don't remember who the high school coach was that the Supreme Court ruled on.
It was in Texas. I'm fairly
right?
confident.
No fucking surprise.
No surprise there. Yep.
Is now you're blurring the lines between separation of church and state, right? So a lot of these decisions are beginning to compound themselves with how things are going to be viewed across the land and for years to come.
Yeah, and if they go after like states' abilities to control how they manage their contribution to federal elections, that's another scary turn.
Yes.
Well,
Because
now
it goes from
now
bad
you're
to worse.
directly impacting things because now you're dealing with states' rights, which is a fundamental.
Well,
Uh,
and
right.
I'm sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just thinking. I feel like the problem is that to effectuate change, we need enough people in there who are good enough to set the certain things in motion to effectuate change. But it's like this whole catch-22. But how do we get enough quality people in there to do that? When I feel like there's two big issues: super PACs and term limits. And until those two things are addressed, I'm not sure that we get anybody. No politician of quality, we can get them in there, but can we get them in there long enough to effectuate change and push out the old guard? Like, how do we do that?
Well, and again, this is what Max said, is like, he's okay with not having the answer. And we don't have the answer to that, right? But you have to have the conversation. You have to have somebody like yourself willing to go, here's an issue, and we have to put it on the table to discuss how to solve that problem, because you're never getting to an answer until the conversation started. And again, that's one of the things we are always trying to do here now for going on 2 years, is we are just trying to start a conversation for ourselves and our listeners to go, what should I be doing about these things?
Well,
Because like with 335 million people in this country, if people are looking at these decisions that the Supreme Court's making and so on and so forth and going, I'm okay with that, it's like, are we looking at the same thing? I mean, seriously? It boggles the mind that any female in this country, any female would be okay with removal of choice when it comes to their own body. And I don't understand how any female, and I know there are females sitting on the Supreme Court. I know. And that's also like, how are you okay with that?
I mean, you're talking.
It's their beliefs, right? And
it's ego.
Whether we agree with it or not, that's where we have to tread lightly, right? Because that's what makes it, makes things work. Is they're allowed to believe what they want to believe.
Wait. And I don't want to have an abortion discussion. Isn't pro-choice by default pro-life for any individual that gets to make that choice? If you're pro-choice, anybody that is pro-life is like, I'm okay with that because I get to choose life. They get a choice. But pro-life excludes anybody that doesn't want to have a kid. And that's the part I as a woman, you go, why would I be okay with that? Why?
Well, I mean,
and I'm not trying to frame it this way, but it would be like every African American if they passed a law about racism and an African American going, yeah, I vote for that. What? Why would you be okay with racism?
I don't know, but they're out there. And there's a guy, isn't there a guy in Florida?
That
like
doesn't
running
surprise me.
Running in Florida who's like staunch Republican.
Oh yeah, Ron DeSantis.
Well, yeah.
You mean besides him?
Yeah, I don't remember the guy's name.
And to me, I'll cynically say it's the path that gets them closer to what they want. It isn't about standing up for anything in particular. It's the opportunity to take political power, and that advantages them individually. Does it advance the larger African American race? Well, I mean, as we well know, look, I mean, and I don't want to be a hypocrite. Like, I don't consider myself accountable and responsible for every white person out there.
No,
I don't. And
so
in the sense of, I think it seems odd to us when we see a woman who is pro-life or an African American who gets in a line aligns with the Republican Party, because we're just like over here screaming, going, "Can't you see they're racist?" or "Can't you see?"
Right.
But they clearly don't feel that way.
Right.
In their case, maybe they were raised religious, so they were raised a certain way, and they feel very
Yeah.
comfortable in that position, and that's why they go that way. So I think we've got to start dialing down the assumptions based on the color of skin of a person or their gender, of where they're
right.
going to stand on a topic, because most likely it's probably either self-interest, religious
Upbringing.
basis. They were raised to be very religious. And they also don't have issue with telling another person how they're going to live.
Right.
In their mind, it's no different than saying "thou shalt not kill" or some other broad sweeping law as it relates to how you interact with a human being. They put it on par, on the same playing field as that.
And it's one of the things, like I've talked to my wife about this, that boggles her mind, because she would be on social media and there would be something about a female, would post something, and then she'd go through the comments. She goes, "Women will just fucking eat each other up." She's like, "The meanest people to women are other women." And maybe men are like that. I maybe that is also the case, but I think she brings it to the forefront as a female, going, "I don't understand why women are so venomous to each other as opposed to supporting each other." And again, I'm not trying to have a gender conversation, but when it comes to like abortion, it does surprise me that you would have a female who would be okay with this. And yes, upbringing, but again, doesn't the Bible teach temperament for your fellow man, all men? Right. So, I mean, if we're going to hold
does it?
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I am incorrect. And I do not want to speak out of turn on that.
But it's also in how you interpret the Bible, right? I think.
No, it's not. That's the Pope's job. We're not supposed to interpret anything. We're just supposed to listen and behave.
All I ask of you is you kill your only son for me. Show me that you love me.
Right?
Kill your only son.
Right.
That's all I ask.
It's not a big ask, I think. It's reasonable.
Yeah.
Not when you want internal salvation.
Well, and again, let's just be honest. It's a man-made book.
Yeah, it is.
That is
by
used
Jesus
to justify actions. And it sadly comes with a zeal that tends to be unhealthy.
Very, very. All right. So real quick, let's pivot back to our topic. Okay. There he is. There he is.
Bone sucking.
I was going to say, do you have some bone sucking sauce? What are you doing down there?
I am empty. I need to get some real quick.
Look, okay. So let's, we're going to take a quick break here. We'll put on some elevator music for you, ladies and gentlemen. The Los Quattro Chinetes will be back shortly.
That's all, folks.
We're going to go refill our drinks and we will be back shortly to continue this conversation. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Happy to be here. Everybody got a good new drink? We're refreshed? We're good?
Yes,
all right, let's jump back into it. So I don't actually remember what we were saying.
You were singing America. Fuck yeah. Here to save
America.
the motherfucking day.
I remember what I was going to say. So I'm curious, Haas, and I want to pivot back to this because you live out of the country. I'm interested to know, based on the current situation as an American living outside the country, when you're out and about pitching being an American, or you keep that to yourself?
I mean, I don't proselytize it, but I don't hide it.
You don't wear a red, white, and blue shirt that says I'm American.
No, that people don't care.
I
mean, it is interesting because the wife and I are in the building, the 3 buildings that are attached to the garden that our flat overlooks. And we know most of the people in our building, and we know quite a few people in a couple other buildings. We are the only Americans in the building, and we are known as the Americans. And apparently, we are talked about amongst the other folks in the building. But no, it's not like that. I mean, this is an extremely mixed culture of people here. I mean, the UN's here, the IAEA is here. It's a major city that kind of connects right Eastern and Western Europe. So there's a huge contingent of expats, and there's a huge, so just a huge mix of cultures. So I don't think anyone goes around necessarily proselytizing it, but I mean, I don't necessarily hide it either, unless, like I was telling you guys earlier, unless I know it's going to cause me to get into a conversation that, quite frankly, I don't have the time, energy, or desire to get into.
And then you're Canadian.
And then I'm Canadian.
You don't say Dutch.
I mean, I could. I mean, people naturally, because of my name, people naturally presume that I am.
Right. So it makes it easy.
You're like, or you just throw in a.
Yeah.
Why'd you just say a?
I mean, it's Canadian. It's definitely a motivation to learn how to speak Dutch, I guess, at some point.
Wouldn't it be easier to speak Canadian?
Yeah, eh? Absolutely, eh?
You got it. Just go watch Fargo a few times. You'll get it.
Yeah, I don't know. People, the problem is because you don't know. I've met people and they find out I'm American and they're like, oh, cool. Especially younger kids from Eastern Europe. Like they definitely want to talk to me and they want to know all about America.
Because it's that Western culture ideology.
Right. And they're trying to get to America. Hollywood. I mean, I've met several Russians and Ukrainians and Romanians. I met a dude from Belarus. I mean, I've met quite a few people who they are so excited to talk to an American and learn all the ins and outs. And they have a gazillion questions. And then you meet people who are a little bit older and have different feelings and rememberings of Americans' presence where they're from. And they don't necessarily feel that way, understandably.
Would you tell somebody who was a foreigner to move here?
Depends.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not a resounding abso-fucking-lutely. It's the land of the free, home of the brave. It's a better option or a better opportunity, and yet you're not like.
It depends on what do you want out of the situation.
The American dream, brother. That's always in movies, right? I go to pursue the American dream, right? That's always what
Raise rabbits.
It was, right?
Well, I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Haas, but to that point, it would be a bit of where are you going and what do you want to do? I mean, I wouldn't recommend living in like rural Mississippi as a cultural change,
exactly,
as opposed to like a bigger city or something like that. Because to the point of your question, it's a reality in some of these small towns. Mm-hmm. You are going to be noticed if you were different. How they're going to react, I can't say, but I can go off some assumptions.
And the other part is what are their other options, right? Like if there are other options of going back to a shit-tastic Eastern European country, then
rural Mississippi it is.
Move to a major metropolitan city in the U.S. and roll the dice.
Right.
Get a foundation of education here that will serve you well there, and then go there and roll the dice.
Yeah, and I think the American dream is different for everybody, right? You say the American dream. Yeah. I mean, it's the American dream for us is one thing, but if you're coming from Russia or the Ukraine, it might be completely different for you.
You might be perfectly content.
Okay with rural Mississippi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true.
America,
maybe very peaceful. Maybe you want to farm. Yeah, you're right.
It. The greatest country in the world. And if you don't like it, go live in Mississippi. It's almost as bad as North Korea.
I mean, I know we've done our fair share of, I think, honest broker about the country. I mean, but look, I mean, Haas, you've said this before. One of the most enticing aspects of this country is the opportunity. There's a wide range of cities and areas and professions to go into, all of which are viable paths. And despite some of this, the school shootings, like, no, not every school is getting shot up every day. Right. It's still a shocking event despite the frequency of it. But it isn't like every single day. I just wonder if it was going to happen.
Well, people don't realize how large the U.S. is and how much bigger in landmass, how much larger it is in population. So it seems like a lot more, but if you look at the comparison side by side, it's still going to be more than some places, right? Because it just is what it is. But I mean, the truth of the matter is that yes, it's opportunity, but it's also innovation. There's not a lot of innovation here in this part of the world. Especially in this city and of course in Eastern Europe. Like they don't, culturally speaking, failure is not an option. So if you think you're going to fail, if you think there's a possibility you're going to fail, like a 1% chance that you're going to fail, they don't try. Whereas, in the US, we're perfectly fine to go out and fail multiple times until we get it right. And so for a lot of the younger kids I talk to, that's what they are wired and motivated and driven by the passion of that ideology and that philosophy, which is I didn't understand that until I got here and realized that's a huge difference between America and the rest of the world from a cultural standpoint.
Yeah. I mean, the number of opportunities, the diversity, and the paths are all there. I'm not naming any particular countries, but there are a lot of other countries out there where we've talked about there's almost a caste system, whether it's formal or informal, and just getting up and through that is a lot harder. And the deck's stacked against you in many respects, and it's who you know. And
in many respects, it doesn't matter.
It really doesn't.
Born
you can be the smartest,
and that's it. It doesn't.
You
matter.
can be
You're
the
not
smartest with the best ideas. It will never get you anywhere where you're at. And so a lot of people do. I mean, they want to move to the U.S. because, truth be told, look, you can show up and you can grind and save money, and you can buy like an ice cream truck, and then work your ass off, and then 5 years later buy a second ice cream truck, and then 5 years later buy 5 more ice cream, and you can make yourself a millionaire in the U.S. if you're willing to put in the hard work.
I feel absolutely like can. Hungry. He's going right to the ice cream truck analogy.
Yeah, it's summertime and it's hot. Why not? Who doesn't like ice cream? It's un-American not to like ice cream.
You don't see a lot of ice cream trucks anymore. At least not where I'm at. Maybe
hey, buddy.
That's my millionaire.
Hey, buddy. You a little tertiary revenue stream, homie.
Yeah, it could be your side hustle.
That's right. Because you have so much free time.
And who doesn't want to hear that music all day long?
Right?
It's funny you say.
No, I could totally see him playing. Like
Train.
Yeah, train.
Training you too.
See, the problem is, you don't get high on your own supply. That would just you drive an ice cream truck all day would be bad for me.
It's interesting because you said who doesn't like ice cream? It's un-American not to like ice cream, right? Ice cream was invented it's the Mongol Empire actually created ice cream.
Yeah.
Well, we took it. We just
not even fucking American.
You're going to tell me
hot dogs.
Pizza, and you're going to tell me Mexican food's not American? What? Come on,
Taco Bell. Just saying. Again, I thought this would be an interesting topic. Again, as we have said multiple times, coming off the July 4th weekend, Independence Day. That's not something celebrated, obviously, all over the world, right? It is a American institution in terms of a holiday celebration, and I can tell you as of late, I have struggled with the idea of, patriotism and a patriotic notion towards this country because of the direction it's going in. And you're right, Mac. I mean, if you don't like something, you have a voice, you stand up and say something. And again, that's a part of this podcast is our way of doing that.
And Mac, if more people took your approach like that, we'd probably be in a better situation.
We would be.
Well, you'd like to think so. Yeah.
Right. And again, I don't approach these conversations week in and week out going, we need an answer before we're done. We're devoting an hour. We've got the problem. We need a solution. And we know that. I mean, how many times have we finished a podcast going, well, we didn't have a solution. We didn't have an answer. No, but we started the conversation and can always pick up the conversation down the road. It is frustrating to watch the way things have happened. Yes, I would have loved for Joe to take office and snap his fingers and boom, all the problems are done. But again, as the analogy says, you didn't get fat overnight. You're not getting skinny overnight. Like the problem's not going to be solved by the wave of a magic wand. Shit has to happen, but it's not going to happen while you've got both sides banging heads against each other.
Well, and then you've got other branches of the government creating more and more divisiveness amongst the people. Like,
and I did say it is like, it's literally feels like the divided states of America.
It's
not united.
Bro. Oh my God.
And
I don't think you're wrong.
No, and it continues to be the case. And, I challenge people, write in and tell us. I challenge people to say, hey, you're wrong and this is why. Challenge the notion that we aren't the divided states of America right now. And it's only getting worse because I'd love to know that side of the argument that clearly I must be missing. And again, we have 4 people here. Our lives, our paths have all taken different trajectories. We've managed to stay in touch, be friends for 30 plus years, but our lives have all taken different trajectories from, not being educated collegiately to, more so having 20 years in the military, moving abroad. We've got an IT guy, a legal guy, an ex-military guy, an artist, like, again, all different walks of life. And yet we come back to this arena and we all look at things with our own critical eye, and we all seem to make the same assessment. And I don't think we make that assessment because we're friends. Oh, well, I don't want to disappoint Mac. So yeah, I totally agree with you, Mac. No, we don't have a problem standing up and going bullshit. And that's wrong. Your whole gun control argument is fucking wrong. It's a fallacy. Okay. Collegiate athletes shouldn't get fucking paid. And then you can sit there and look at me and go, well, you're wrong.
Why am I
what?
Look, here's what I want to
live in the present.
I mean, if he's not taking pot shots across the bow and paying backhanded compliments, he's not being true to himself.
Look, from getting set up at the beginning of this episode to, closing it out now with these callbacks. What did I do to you, man? Why did I break your heart?
What haven't you rubbed? I told you rubbed me the wrong way.
You have cut him deep.
That's right. You're in North Korea.
I'm getting some bone sucking sauce and going to rub you the right way.
Right. Your off-air North Korea comment just pissed me off.
Clearly.
Does it mean I'm not, does it mean that I didn't celebrate July 4th, that I didn't grill out hamburgers and hot dogs and enjoy myself? No, I absolutely did. And I'll do it again next year. But it doesn't mean that I don't look at the state of the situation and go, it is disappointing. And I don't know how to right the ship. Not personally, not individually, except for what Grinch said previously. And you all echoed, voting matters, go fucking vote.
Yeah. 100%. Here's the biggest problem. When the biggest sporting event for the 4th of July is a hot dog eating contest, I think we've kind of, set the bar really fucking low there.
Yeah.
Hot dog manufacturers love it because I'm sure it boosts.
It's the only time of year that anybody eats a fucking hot dog.
So gross, man. It's just gross.
You don't like hot dogs? You don't like seafood? You don't like hot dogs?
No, I didn't say I don't like hot dogs.
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
Hot dog in
like
water.
They're disgusting.
You can stuff as many in your freaking face as possible. It's disgusting.
I don't see the allure. I really
America.
don't. Oh, good. You beat me in a hot dog eating contest.
Yeah,
cool.
Congrats.
I'm going to go over here and eat a bunch of great seafood now.
I'm sorry. In porn, do they dip a penis in water before stuffing it in their mouth? I mean, does that help in some way?
I'm pretty sure there's
bone sucking sauce.
Yes. I'm going to go back and find out who made that and see if we can get a sponsorship now.
No, go back and buy some. I just want to know if it's any good. I mean,
it is.
Shit. Really?
Well, the problem is I can't bend that far to test it. So,
look, you're shedding weight. You'll get there eventually. remove like the lower 6
If you were more
ribs.
patriotic, you would.
Yeah, right.
If you cared about your country, you'd find a way.
You know how you would lose weight? Move to North Korea.
Yeah, there you go. Problem solved.
That's right.
And then the Americans quit when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor.
You know what? We can still joke. That's the beauty of what we do here is we can take a sad topic and we can still laugh and joke about it. Right? I mean, it becomes humorous at some point. But Grinch, out of curiosity, when does the pain threshold get exceeded on this?
Well, like I said, we're going to find out if the Supreme Court woke some people up. And
so you think midterms are going to be the defining?
It's going to be the first sign, I think, of did it generate energy for change? And frankly, if it didn't, that's just sad.
I was about to say, what's Grinch's position if it doesn't?
I mean, I simultaneoly feel that if people don't get active and try to do things that are in their own best interest, then fuck them. I mean, fuck them.
It's like getting a COVID shot.
You deserve.
You're going to bitch and moan about the situation and do nothing. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
Toss, any indication that you'd come back to the States to live? I mean, obviously, does that weigh into your choice of staying abroad when you look at the shit show?
No, it's not a deciding factor, but I will say this to that point is it definitely is not a boon to come back. Right? Like, I mean, it's not our choice to move here and our choice to live here was not driven based on the political climate and what was going on in America at the time. Our decisions to continue to want to live here is not driven by that at all. It's driven by our personal needs and desires and our lifestyle and what feels best and most comfortable for us, and that's where we're currently at. But the things that have occurred and are continuing to occur are not enticing us to come running back by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay. I can understand that. And I wouldn't blame you if you got on the other side of this and you're like, yeah, I have no reason to come back. I'm living in the number one country or number one city, rated number one city in the world to live in. That's where I'm currently living. Second only to Kansas City. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
That's vacationing.
I know that
two
can't
different kind of two different discussions.
Two different lists.
Yeah.
The number one city in the world to live in for remote work during a vacation was
Kansas City.
Kansas City, Grinch, in case you missed it. What's the head shake for?
I'm not buying it.
No?
I'm not buying it.
Have you been?
I've been to Kansas City, yes.
Oh, okay. Well, then you can speak to it.
Have you remotely worked from Kansas City?
Yes, you haven't.
I haven't. I can't claim that.
See?
So you're not the demographic
I did
they're
respond to
looking
some
for.
emails while I was there.
Oh, well.
So
then
technically,
work.
no, legal says technically
Okay, fine.
that counts.
That does
Therefore,
count.
I am now a subject matter expert and can weigh in on this. And it's
Yes.
bullshit.
There you go. And then the separate list being the number one city in the world to live in is currently Vienna, Austria. Right? Is that
Which is an awesome
that's what
city.
the list?
It's
Right.
an awesome
So,
city.
which you have also been in. So you are
I
a
have.
subject matter expert there as well. Yeah, I mean, obviously maybe we see in a year from now, depending on where the country's at, how Independence Day next year shapes up and where patriotism and pride and the love of country sits. It is a little disheartening for me, and I won't lie about that. And Mac, maybe you're right. Maybe if you don't like it, go live in fucking North Korea, right? Maybe that is.
And I mean, right. That's
Well,
you're right. That's
it's
the
a little on the
extent.
extreme, but it would give perspective.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, I love my country.
Right. Do you like food? That's good because you're not going to have any.
Cable?
To Haas's
No.
point,
No.
it's the best weight loss program in the world.
Exactly.
Our favorite game is singing to Dear Leader.
That's right. While playing, what is it they play? The accordion, right? Isn't that the country's national instrument? I think it's like the accordion or something.
I thought it was the skid flute.
Only with bone sucking sauce.
Okay, fair enough.
Ladies and gentlemen, as always, we appreciate you being here week in and week out. The Four Horsemen are always happy to join and the conversation, and at least start it. If you're not willing to start it, that's what we're here for, and we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to tune in and listen to us. Gentlemen, the window's getting short. We are coming up, ladies and gentlemen, on our 100th episode. All time for a spirited debate. Now, this does not include our sister episodes of Liquor and Leagues, where we cover collegiate football exclusively in the SEC that we do
Speaking
every
of
fall.
back-to-back world champion.
Yeah.
Back to back.
There's nothing more un-American than rooting for Georgia, but that's neither here nor there. Is that we are closing very quickly in on our 100th episode, so we're excited about that. We're hoping to do something special, so definitely be paying attention. We might push out some stuff on social media. We might be doing something a little different. We don't know yet. We're in talks. The Horsemen are together, constantly discussing it, and we will see what happens. But as always, please feel free to check us out at aspiriteddebate.com. All of the drinks that we have here, and any episode that you'd like to try, you can check out in the vault.
Mm-hmm.
Drop us a line. Let us know what drink you'd like us to try, a debate you'd like us to talk about. If that's not good enough for you, go to the Four Horsemen at aspiriteddebate.com. You can hit us up there, drop us a line, a question you'd like us to answer, a drink you'd like us to try, or a topic you'd like us to debate. And as always, gentlemen,
Yes,
I love doing
please.
this.
Please send us
weekend.
your questions because we
Yes.
love to answer them and then respond to them and then put out an episode about it.
Absolutely. As always, gentlemen, love you all being here week in and week out, and we will do this again next week. The views, information, or opinions expressed during the A Spirited Debate podcast series or any affiliated podcast are solely those of the hosts or guests involved and do not represent those of people, institutions, or organizations that the hosts or guests may or may not be associated with in a professional or personal capacity, unless explicitly stated. While guests are invited to listen, listeners acknowledge that they are not being provided professional advice from the podcast or its guests. The content within the parameters of a Spirited Debate podcast series, or any affiliated podcast, are for entertainment and educational purposes only. Any views or opinions are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, or individual.